1 minute. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री गुरु महाराज की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Yashomati Priya Devi Dasi from Chicago, welcoming all of you for the mid-morning Japa session. I thank all of you for attending this session and giving your beautiful time and association. Please forgive me for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. Let us move to our next part of the session, which is Shri Ramayana series. But before we start our session, may I know who all have joined the call this morning?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Janshla Prabhupada, this is Preethi Vilasini Devi Dasi from Atlanta. Thank you for your beautiful chanting and warm welcoming, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Devi Dasi Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining. I'm so grateful to your services, and today I'm really eager to hear the Ram Katha again from your lotus mouth, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj and all the assembled Vaishnavas. This is Kirtina Subrita Sita and Mataji. Thank you so much for your beautiful recitation and so happy to have you back. Hare Krishna. Looking forward.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada and Mataji, all your prayers, everyone's. Hare Krishna, Kirtida Sundari Devi Dasi Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining and grateful to your services. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Neetu Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining every single day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Yashomati Priya Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. My Dandvat Pranams to all the assembled devotees. This is Sushmita from Canada. Thank you for the beautiful recitation of chapter 9, Mataji. All glories to all your services. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
All glories to you, Mataji, your services. Hare Krishna, Sushmita Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining every single day, mid-morning and in the morning. Hare Krishna. Very, very beautiful chanting, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Yeah, so today, dear devotees, before we start our session, I would like to read our Srila Prabhupada's quote for today, April 18. They have forgotten Krishna, they have forgotten God, and I am trying to make them Krishna conscious. It is very difficult job. I have to shed my blood 3 times before I make one convinced in Krishna consciousness. That is my experience. I have to talk with them, especially these Europeans and Americans. They do not accept anything so blindly. Hong Kong, April 18, 1972. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah. So welcome to the Bhaktisanga Japa group today. We are so fortunate to have Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Devidasi Mataji on the topic of the climate of Ramayana explained. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much. Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much Mataji for giving us your very valuable time and association to this morning and enlightening us on this topic. Very, very nice Ram Katha. I will now hand over call to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Yashomati Mataji. Welcome back. We are very, very happy that you're back with us. And thanks to all the devotees for joining us today in this Ram Katha series. We'll get started with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mishwaram Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nite Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Kujantam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraksharam Arubhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam Valmiki Muni Simhasya Kavita Vanacharinaha Shranvan Ramakathanadam Konayate Paramgatim Veda Vedye Parepumse Jate Dasharatatmaje Veda Pracheta Sadasit Sakshat Ramayanatmana Anjananandanam Viram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapisham Akshahantaram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Manojavam Marutatunya Begam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanarayuda Mukyam Sri Ramadhutam Shirasa Namami Anjaneya Madhipatanalanam Kanjanadri Kamaniya Vigraham Parijata Tarumula Vasinam Bhavayami Bhavamananandanam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Krita Mastakanjalim Bhashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutim Namata Rakshasantakam Shri Raghavam Dasharathatmajam Aprameyam Sitapatim Raghukulanmaya Ratnatipam Ajanubahum Maravinda Dalaya Daksham Ramam Nishachara Vinashakam Namam. Hare Krishna. So, we are going to discuss Ram Katha today, and we will delve into a very controversial topic. Oftentimes, the section of the Ramayana is not spoken about, especially when we gather to hear Ram Katha. We like to avoid reading from the Uttarakanda. But today, what we will do is we will really delve into the Uttarakanda, and we'll try to understand why certain things happened in the Ramayana. And we often celebrate Lord Ramachandra as Maryada Purushottam. We call him Karunamurti. He is celebrated, he's called as Sharanagata Vatsala because he takes care of his devotees. So he's celebrated, but then in the corner of many people's hearts, there is always a question, right? Why did Ram have to let go of Sita? So this question is not unique to people like us in the Kali Yuga. This has been a doubt even in the heart of the author of Ramayana, who is Valmiki. So we'll figure out why Valmiki himself had that doubt, and we'll see what he actually mentions in the Uttarakanda, what really was going through in the heart of Lord Ram, and how Sita actually perceived the entire situation. And we can actually, as we go through these verses, I will try to read relevant verses as we go through the storyline and see what Valmiki has really written in the Uttarakanda. We'll understand the heart of Sita Ram, what kind of sacrifice they have done for the sake of the citizens, and eventually, of course, for the sake of all the devotees. So we'll get started here. The Uttarakanda has a very beautiful beginning. This is the last section of the Ramayana. For those who are kind of somewhat familiar with the Ramayana, you all know that there are different sections or different cantos in the Ramayana. So it begins with the Balakanda, and then you have the Ayodhya Kanda, you have the Aranya Kanda, and then there is Kishkinda Kanda, Sundara Kanda, Yuddha Kanda, and finally Uttarakanda, the last one, the seventh one. So after Lord Ramachandra regained his kingdom, after the Rama Pattabhishekam, as we call it, the enthroning of Lord Ram and Mother Sita, Ramachandra started ruling the kingdom very nicely. So this is the beginning of the Uttarakanda. Ramarajya was very, very wonderful. Everybody, all the citizens were very happy. At that time, all the sages from all directions, they visit Lord Ram and they congratulate Lord Ram. And they start glorifying him in various ways. They say it was so difficult to conquer Ravana, and even more difficult it was to conquer Indrajit. And Lakshmana was so capable that he even conquered Indrajit. And when Agastya and all the rishis were talking about this, Lord Ramachandra, he asks the rishis to tell him about the history of the demons. Okay, so the sages, they begin to recite the history of the demons. They tell how Ravana became so powerful, what kind of boons he received. They also tell the history of Indrajit, how he would do this Nikumbila sacrifice and he would come up as extremely powerful and no one could actually dare to challenge him. But then eventually how Lakshmana took up the task of even killing Indrajit. They also described the different boons given to Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishan. And in general, the entire history of the demons was recited. Ramachandra then asks, is there anyone at all who could conquer Ravana? You speak so highly of these demons, so is there anyone who could really challenge him and conquer him? And Agastya and the other rishis says, yes, it was possible. Vali and Kartavirya Arjuna have once defeated Ravana. But then you were the one who was able to kill Ravana. And at that time, Ramachandra had another question. So wasn't Hanuman capable enough to kill Ravana? Because Hanuman is so powerful and he's my greatest servant. So what do you think of Hanuman? And that is when the sages, they tell the entire history of Hanuman, right from his birth, his different pastimes. And finally, the sages say that he was cursed to actually forget his own strength, but then he was reminded by Vibhishan and he dedicated his life to the service of Lord Rama. So the sages, after reciting all these many stories and having a nice conversation with Lord Ram, they took leave from Lord Ram. After they left, after the sages came, congratulated, and they left, Lord Ramachandra ruled gloriously for 10,000 years. Now, this was news to me also. I didn't know that Sita and Ram lived together for 10,000 years before Sita went to the forest and entered Mother Earth. Okay, I was under the impression that right after the enthroning, the next year, everything happened. But then Uttarakanda Ramayana very clearly mentions Dashavarsha Sahasrani Gatani Sumahatmano Praptayo Virvidhanya Bhogan Tata Shishiragama. So this is from chapter 42, Sarga 42, verse number 25. 10,000 years Lord Rama and Sita lived together and they ruled the world. And after this 10,000 years, after Dashavarsha Sahasrani, Abravicha Vararoham Sitam sutopamam apatyalabho vaidehi tvayi me samupastita kimichasi vararohe kamaha kim kriyatam tava. So these are the words spoken by Ram. What did Rama tell? He saw the symptoms of pregnancy in Sita. So Sita gets pregnant after 10,000 years. Somewhat better than what Dasharath, Dasharath, he had children after 60,000 years. So compared to that, Rama and Sita's was much better. It was after 10,000 years. So what did Rama tell Sita? Apravicha vararoham Sita sura sutopamam. He saw the symptoms of pregnancy in Sita and he asked his wife, Kim ichhasi vararohe kama kim kriyatam tava? What do you desire? What desires do you have? Is there any desire in the heart that is unfulfilled, and can I help fulfill it in some way? So this is the prime duty of every husband. When he sees his wife is pregnant, he generally wants to please her. So when he asks this question to Sita Devi at that time, she expresses the strong desire that she has in her heart. So what is the very strong desire that she has in her heart? She says, Ganga tiropi vashtina maharishinam ukratejasam phalamoolashinam deva padamuleshu vartitum. Smitam kritva tu vaidehi ramam vakyam abravit tapovanani punyani drashtumichhami raghava. So what does she say? She says, tapovanani muninani drashtumichhami raghava. Oh Raghava, you know what? I want to go to the Tapovan. I want to go to the place where the sages are, in the forest. Tapovanani punyani drashtumichhami raghava. I want to go, I want to stay there, and I want to be amidst these people. She says, I really enjoyed the days in the ashram of the sages while we both were spending time with them, hearing the wise words from the sages. I enjoyed that company. So now that I am pregnant, I really have this strong desire that I want to go to the forest and live in the ashram of the sages. And she says, Eshame Paramakamo. She says, this is the foremost desires I have, foremost desire. Yanmula Palabojinam Apye Katram Kakutstaha Niveshayam Tapovani. So again, she says, I want to go and live there in the Tapovana. And Ramachandra, when he heard this desire that she wants to go pay her obeisances and live amidst the sages, Ramachandra says, my dear Sita, you will very, very soon have this opportunity to go and visit the rishis in the forest. You're pregnant. I will surely satisfy your desire. So Rama promised this, and the day went by. Later in the day, Ramachandra, he enters the royal assembly and he spends his time in his kingly assembly. He speaks to the ministers in a very light conversation. He has nice conversations with them. He's joking with them, and he's having a good time discussing the current affairs. And at that time, he turns towards his messenger by the name Bhadra. And Ramachandra asks him, Oh, Bhadra, what do the citizens talk about me these days? And what do they say about Sita? What's their opinion about Bharata, Lakshmana, and Shatrughna? What do they feel about our mothers, Kaikeyi, especially Kaikeyi, he asks. And what do they think of me? So please tell me about all this. What is their opinion about each one of us? So at this point in time, Lord Ramachandra, he asks about the personal opinion of the people who may think about the king and the queen and the different people in the king's family. Okay. So he says, after all, the kings are always subject to the people's criticism. That is very, very common. Anyone in leadership position, they are watched for all that they do, whether they're doing something right or whether they're doing something wrong. People are watching them. And it is only natural for us to criticize people who are in power and position, because that is the nature of all living entities. Once we see someone has a responsibility or a leadership position, we like to see them perform really perfectly. This is the nature of the onlookers. So he says, after all, it is the nature of people. Subjects are always there to criticize the kings. So tell me, what are they telling? What is the criticisms they have? Now at this time, with folded hands, this messenger Bhadra, he says, my dear Lord, what is there to talk negatively about you? After all, you are the great person who was even victorious over this 10-headed Ravana. They consider you to be the greatest of all heroes. So what is there to criticize you? You're an amazing king, and the kingdom is flourishing very nicely in your presence. Then Rama, he looked at Bhadra and he said, that's okay, but tell me if there are some shortcomings in the kingdom. And I truly want to correct myself. If there are some mistakes and people are watching me, I want to get corrected. So tell me if there are some mistakes. And he specifically at this point in time, he says, whether good or bad, I don't know, but just tell me. And I'm ready to take it on. So at that time, Bhadra, he's forced to speak. And he says, I really don't want to speak about this. But then since you're asking me so much, I would tell you what people are currently talking in the marketplaces and city streets. At this point in time, the washerman per se is not picked. Okay, it's not picked out that only the washerman spoke about Sita. What Bhadra says is, all the people in the marketplaces and city streets, general gossip. This is what is happening. They're talking like this. What are they talking? He says, they are all saying, not everybody, some of them. Okay? Some of them in the marketplace and streets, not everybody, they have this opinion. Ramachandra, he's performed many extraordinary feats. He's in fact even vanquished this very powerful Rakshasa Ravan. Still, there is a problem. Kitrisham hridaye tasya Sita sambhogajam sukham Ankamaropya tu pura Ravani bhaladritam Lankamapi puranitam shokavanikam gatam Rakshasam vashampannam katam Ramo nakutsate. So they are asking, hasn't it ever occurred to Lord Ram that he has brought a woman who was in the clutches of a demon, who was abducted by a Rakshasa king for almost a year? Doesn't it occur to Ram, doesn't he feel disgust when he's staying with a woman who has stayed with someone else? What could be the only reason that this Rama is keeping Sita? It is because of his own lustful desires. Sambhogajam sukham. Just for his own happiness, for the sake of lust only, our king is maintaining a woman who has stayed elsewhere, who's remained with Ravana for almost a year. Okay, so this is what people are commenting. And more importantly, they said this as well. Asmakamapi dwareshu sahaniyam bhavishyati yatahi kurute raja praja tamanuvartate. Asmakamapi dwareshu. Even if our own dhara, that is our own wives, if they also go away with someone, sahaniyam bhavishyati yatahi kurute raja praja tamanuvartate. We will also say our Raja did this, so we are Praja, we will follow in his footsteps. Can we also do like that? That is the question they are asking. If our Dara goes away elsewhere, can we just bring her and maintain her just because we are so attached to our wife, we are very lusty and we want to keep our wife with us? So this is what the people in the marketplace are speaking. So two things. One thing, they of course found fault with both Rama and Sita. They considered Rama to be very lustful, and Sita, unfortunately, had been taken away by another man. The more important thing is, they are telling, this is Raja, he has to set an example. Is it okay if the Praja also behave like this? Because they are telling whatever king does, subjects will automatically follow. So now, is it okay if we can also tolerate any sort of unfaithfulness and we can also be very lusty and just maintain our things? So these are the words that Bhadra tells Rama. And he says, this is what I heard from the people. You asked for negative feedback. This is what people are speaking about you in the streets. Now, Ram, at this point, he was completely shocked. He was shocked. He was dismayed. And he checked with the other ministers. He just didn't listen to what Bhadra said and decided, okay, I'll take a decision right away. He consulted with other ministers to check if what Bhadra spoke was really true, so they could also give their opinion. And everybody confirmed that unfortunately it was true. All these years, somehow or the other, this news hadn't reached Lord Ram. It had been so many years. Everyone is scared of the king, right? Nobody wants to give negative feedback face to face to the king. But then it was time for Lord Ram and Sita to understand that something is happening in the kingdom. So it took them so many years. And finally, it was confirmed to Lord Ram that this is what people are, in fact, speaking on the streets. And Ramachandra was completely shocked. He didn't know what to do. He was like stunned. And he called for his brothers. So whenever he was in any difficulty, he would call for his brothers and discuss with them. So he called for his brothers and he told them about what was happening in the kingdom. He was in complete dismay. And Rama explained to his brothers that Bhadra just came and gave me such a horrible news. And he started speaking very highly of Sita, Ramachandra, at this point in time. He started telling all that Sita went throughout her life. He says, after the war, Sita had to undergo such great distress. She had to enter fire in the assembly of great demigods and sages. And in that assembly, she was declared to be innocent. So with a painful heart, he was describing the great ordeal that Sita had undergone so far. He said, Chandradityau cha samshete suranam sannidhopura rishinam chaiva sarvesham apapam janakatmajam. This Janakatmaja, Sita, is apapam. She is innocent. She doesn't know anything. In the assembly of rishis and devas and Chandra, Aditya, in such an assembly, she was asked to enter fire. Evam Shuddha Samachara Deva Gandharva Sannidhau. Devas were there, Gandharvas were there. She was claimed as being Shuddha, completely pure. Lankadipo Mahendrena Mamahaste Niveshita. In that Lanka Dvipa, in that island of Lanka, Mahendra is Indra. Indra himself came personally and gave her hand in my hand. Mamahaste Niveshita. She was declared pure and she had to go through this ordeal of entering fire and doing everything for what? For the sake of the people. Because Rama explains here, Antaratma cha me veti sitam shuddham yashasvinim tato grihitva vaidehim ayodhyam aham agataha. He said, Antaratma cha me veti. I know very well, Antaratma, within my heart, I know for sure, Sitam Shuddha Yashasvinim. She is completely pure. She is Yashasvini. She is her famous spotless. Tato Grihitva Vaidehim. After that, after it was proven to everybody, even keeping the Aditya, Surya, Devas, Rishis at witness, everything was done so that nobody will question her. After all this, I had taken her and had come to Ayodhya. In spite of all this, after so many years, this kind of vichar has come upon us. So he expresses his heart to his brothers. So actually, Rama knew perfectly well of Sita's complete purity, innocence, and chastity, whatever you call it. But then Ram was the king of Ayodhya and Sita was the queen. Both of them had heavy responsibilities. They had to make a decision for the well-being of the entire country, entire citizens, all the citizens, society. And you all know with power comes responsibility. So leadership is not a post to enjoy. If that is the idea, then one will be a very exploitative person and he'll be a miserable leader. Leadership means very serious, significant responsibility of service to others. That's why we say servant leaders, right? So a real leader is in the spirit of service. Taking responsibility for others means you have to be selfless. We have to put aside our own well-being, our desires, and keep everything secondary and think that the primary responsibility is for the people who are looking up to us. So leadership means responsibility, and responsibility means sacrifice of our own pleasures or our own needs. And sacrifices means a lot of crime, a lot of distress. So the theme underlying the Ramayana is leadership, sacrifice, and sadness, shoka. That is the underlying theme of the entire Ramayana. From beginning to end, there is so much sadness that Lord Ram had to undergo, Lord Ram and his dear consort Sita. So anyway, after a lot of deliberation, after discussing with his brothers, ministers, he didn't have the heart to take any decision at this point in time. But then he took a while to think over this again and again. And finally, he called for Lakshmana. So Rama called for Lakshman specifically. And because whenever he wanted to do anything, Lakshman was always there at his service. So he called Lakshman and he said, what I have to say to you is very, very painful, but please listen to me with a lot of care and attention. I just learned that many of the citizens are criticizing me because Sita came back from Lanka along with me. After killing Ravana, actually, I was very, very fearful of the opinion of the people, how they would be receiving Sita. I was very fearful of that. I did not want to hear any blasphemy against her once she's back, because I thought that blasphemy will be very painful to her heart. I didn't want her to keep hearing criticisms against her. So that is the reason, even in Lanka itself, that Agni Pariksha had to be done. So that when she comes, everyone will know in the assembly of Devas and Rishis and Chandra Aditya, everybody was there. Indra himself gave her hand in my hand. Everybody will know the greatness of Mother Sita. I'm just going to quickly mute everybody. Yeah. So everybody knew her greatness, and then only I brought her back so that nobody criticizes her and she doesn't hear such criticisms from others. But then, unfortunately, oh Lakshman, today the things have changed. As long as one's conduct is subject to rumors, he has to suffer humiliation and defamation. Now, I'm ready to give up my life if it is necessary. In fact, I'm drowning in an ocean of sorrow. I've not experienced such a kind of misfortune. But as a king, it will be irresponsible for me to commit suicide or do such things. So with a very heavy heart, Ram tells Lakshman, tomorrow, I want you to take Sita to the banks of the river Ganga and give her a tour of the ashrams of the rishis. Actually, she herself had requested for this. Earlier, she herself came and she requested for this. She said she wants to go there and spend some time with them. And she said this is her desire. I will fulfill that desire. And please take her there, he tells. Gangayastu pare pare Valmikestu Mahatmanah Ashramo Divyashanka Shastam Sati Samashrataha. So specifically he says, in the Ganga Tira, in the banks of the river Ganga, there is Valmiki Mahatma's ashram. Mahatma Valmiki is there. Take her especially there. So Ramachandra is very clear. He doesn't tell her, go and abandon her in the middle of the forest and run away from there. Okay. So he's very clear. He says, ensure that she is carefully taken and she is especially given under the care of Valmiki. And when you come back from Valmiki's ashram, which is there on the banks of the river Tamasa, I want you to leave her there and come back alone. Don't stay there and, spend a month there and then bring her back, but you please come back alone. Now, this is very heavily commented, this section of the Ramayana, why Valmiki's ashram was chosen. It's interesting that Sita, she comes from Mother Earth, right, when she is born. What else is produced from Mother Earth? It is the Valmika. Valmika are anthills. They come from Mother Earth, from the womb of Mother Earth, and they look like the ears of Mother Earth, right, the Valmika. And Valmiki was also born from the Valmika. That's why he's called as Valmiki. One who emerged from the Valmika is called as, not born, but you say emerged from the Valmika as Valmiki. Because of the intense tapas that he did, the Valmika had covered him up, and then he emerges from that Valmika and he's called as Valmiki. So in one sense, this is the brother's house. This is her birthplace. So when a woman is pregnant, she's sent to her birthplace. So it is to be understood like that. Okay, so he tells Lakshmana, you must carry out my order without any argument. Please don't hesitate, do this. And if you do this, it'll be ideal at this point in time. And he clearly explains that Mother Sita, she told me, Sita Devi, She told me that she very much wants to go and visit the ashrams along the banks of the river Ganga. Valmiki's ashram is also along the banks of the river Ganga. So please fulfill my desire. And since Lakshman was very, very obedient to his elder brother, he gave us consent, though he was not at all happy doing it. He was very hesitant doing it, but still he gave us consent and he was ready to do it. Early next morning, Lakshman, he goes to Mother Sita and he says, it appears that you had a desire. You asked Ram that you wanted to go and stay in the ashram of the great sages. Your husband has ordered me to fulfill your desire. So it will be my duty to escort you to the banks of the river Ganga so that you can go there and you can stay with the rishis for some time and worship them. And he says, Sumantara is also ready with a chariot. So I request you to come immediately. Let's leave immediately. And Sita was very delighted. She was thinking, oh, I just told him and already he has made arrangements. So she was extremely happy. So what did she say? It's very beautiful. Sita's heart is so pure, so beautiful. She says, Evam mukta tu vaidehi lakshmanena mahatmanaha prahasham tulam laibhe dhamanam chapya rochayat. She was erupting in happiness. Prahashatulyam lebhe. She was so excited and she was ready to go. Gamanam chapya rochayat. So she was very, very excited to go. And what did she do? She started collecting gifts so that she can give different jewelry and abharanas to the Munipatnis. Imani Munipatninam dasyam abharanam vastrani cha maharnani dhanani vividhani cha. So she went, she collected all sorts of dhanam and vastram and abharanam, ornaments, all this she collected so that she could go and stay with the Munipatnis and give them some gifts as well when she stays with them. So she collected all this and she climbed the chariot along with Lakshmana and Sumantra, and they were ready to leave. So first, they go towards the Gomati river, and one night they stay in the ashrams near the Gomati river, and next day they come to the banks of the river Ganga. Specifically, Sita also said she wants to go to the ashrams in the banks of the river Ganga. So they decided to cross the river Ganges and then go to the banks of the river Ganga, where Lakshmana was given an instruction, it has to specifically be near Valmiki's ashram. So they proceeded. And as they were going, somehow that day, Sita, she started telling Lakshman very anxiously, she said, my right eye has begun to twitch and my mind feels very strangely uneasy. So you all know Nimittas and Shakuna is a part of Valmiki Ramayana. Yesterday also, Prabhuji in the class, he was mentioning about how the Ramayana is the essence of the Veda Vedanta. And he was talking about how astrology is also a part embedded in the Ramayana. And Nimitta Shastra is a part of astrology. So you see a lot of Nimittas are explained throughout the Ramayana, not only here, in many places. Even when Sita decided to actually hang herself with her braid, just before Hanuman had arrived, even that time also she started experiencing some good omens, and then Hanuman catches her, right? And she's saved. So here at this point in time, Sita, she started feeling very uneasy and her right eye was twitching. Right eye for a man, if it is twitching, it is auspicious. But for a woman, if the right eye is twitching, it is inauspicious. So she says, I feel very weak suddenly and I feel the entire world is gloomy. I'm getting all these weird feelings. So is Ram all right? So her immediate concern was her love, her Ram. She was thinking, I hope he is all right, because she thinks if something goes wrong with him, that is the worst thing that can happen to me, right? So she says, I hope Rama is all right. Even at that time, she was thinking of him. But then Lakshman didn't answer anything. He was continuously crying as he was riding on the chariot. He just wipes his tears and Lakshmana gets off the chariot at one point and he arranges for a boat so that with that boat, he could escort Sita on the other side of the river Ganges where the ashramas were. So they went on the boat and they reached the other side. And finally, once they got off the boat, Lakshman, he falls at the lotus feet of Sita Devi and he confesses with a choke. He's completely choked up. He's crying and he confesses. He tells, my dear Sita Devi, Vaidehi, the good Lord Ram, he's very auspicious. But then unfortunately, I entrusted me with this very painful task. And by performing this duty, I know for sure I'll become very infamous in the eyes of the world. In fact, it would have been better if I had died than execute this order that your husband has given. But I am his servant. I just have to do what he says. My noble lady, please forgive me. I am being forced to do this. It is not my intention to do this. And he started crying. He just fell down. He collapsed and he started crying bitterly. And as it is, Sita was a little worried. Okay? So she got really tensed and she started asking Lakshman, what is the matter? I really don't understand what you're trying to say. Tell me clearly what's troubling you. Is there some misfortune for Lord Ram? And you don't have the courage to tell me something happened to Rama? She asks. But then Lakshman stands up and with his head bowed down, he says, this is what happened. While sitting in the royal court, Rama, he learned about some vicious rumors that had been circulating throughout Ayodhya. And in these rumors, they are accusing both of you. Everywhere, people are blaming Rama for being lustful and for accepting you back after you lived for 1 year in Lanka, for about a year in Lanka. So the citizens are accusing you of staying in someone else's custody. And Rama, just to maintain his lustful propensities, he's keeping you as his wife. And he very well understands that this is going to be very, very painful to you if you also hear the talk of the citizens. So he says, but however, there is one thing I want to tell you. Pauropada bhithena grahyam devi nati anyatha. He says this Pauropavadam, that is Pauropavadam means the talk of the city. Okay, Pauropavadam. Bhithena, everybody is scared of the people who are talking all this nonsense. But then Devi, Rama doesn't consider you to be something, impure or alien, or he doesn't believe these talks. He doesn't have any such opinions that the people of the village have or the people of the town have. So he says he has full faith in you and he understands you. And he's only doing this because of the ill words of the citizens. And as a king, he has to maintain the name of the Ikshvaku dynasty. And also it is his desire that he doesn't want you to be hearing these talks and he wants to stop any future talks in the kingdom. So to do that, unfortunately, this is the decision that he has taken. Tadeta Jhanavi Tire Brahma Rishinam Tapovanam Punyacha Ramaniyam Cha Ma Vishadam Krita Shubhe. So Rama told me that I should bring you here because it was, of course, your desire. You did ask him. But then he asked me to leave you here amidst Valmiki Muni's ashram and take leave of you. So at this time, Sita, she understood what the entire thing was. She was able to understand that she was actually abandoned in one sense, that she was pregnant. She was abandoned in the Valmiki Muni's ashram, and Lakshman and Ram did not tell Lakshman to take her back because he wanted the citizens to stop speaking ill about Sita, ill about Rama. He wanted to hold up the name of the Ikshvaku dynasty and prevent any more commotion. So she could understand her fate. So Sita, immediately, she faints to the ground. She's not able to understand. I mean, she's thinking, oh, the citizens are talking like this about us. So thinking like that, she faints into the ground, on the ground. And after a few minutes, she regains her consciousness. She comes to her senses and she cries out, what wrong did I do? Why did Ram abandon me? But then she takes a moment and she thinks through it and she says this very heart-melting verse. She says, Na khalvadhaiva saumitre jivitam jhanavi jale tyajeta rajavamshatu bharthurme parihasyate. So she says, see, Jhanavi Tire, I will do tyajata of my life. I will give up my life in this Jhanavi river. I will gladly end my life. I will throw myself. I will drown myself in the river Ganga. Because if I am abandoned by my husband, why should I even live? 2 seconds it will take me. I will just drown in this Ganges. But then what will happen if I drown myself in the Ganges? It will bring about an end to Rama's dynasty because now I am pregnant. She says Raghava's Vamsha itself will be destroyed. Raghava Vamshasthu Bhartur me Parihasyate. So, because I don't want the end of Rama, Raghava's dynasty, and now that I am pregnant, I will not kill myself. And look at the characterization of Sita Devi. She begins to console Rama. She says, Lakshmana, I know Rama cannot tolerate separation from me as much as I cannot tolerate separation from him. Even at this point, she doesn't accuse Rama. He left me. He's the worst husband. No, she says, I know Rama. He cannot tolerate separation from me. He's very attached to me. He loves me so much. Even I cannot tolerate separation from Rama. However, at this time, for his well-being, I have an advice for him. She gives advice to her husband. It is time for him to stand up and prove himself to the citizens. Please give this message to him. What is the message that she wants to give Ram? Janasi cha yatha shuddha Sita tatvena Raghava bhaktya cha paraya yukta hita cha tava nityashaha. Sorry. So she says, I am pure, and O Rama, you know that too. You already know that. You have said that in your heart. You know that I am pure and everything. I am pure. You are very well convinced of that. And I also have a lot of concern for your well-being. And you know that well. So if someone has accused you of being very lusty and maintaining me as your wife, then live there in that palace without me or without any wife and prove to the world that you're not like any other lusty man. So she says, stay there in that palace without me. Stay there in that palace without me. Stay there in that palace without the touch of a wife and prove to the world that you're not the lusty man that the people are accusing you of. Okay. So she's very confident. She's saying, I know I'm pure. You also know I'm pure. Now you prove that you can stay without another wife. You can stay without me and you can still rule the kingdom. Even at this time, she is Jagannatha. She doesn't have any hate towards citizens. She doesn't have any hate towards devotees. So what does she say? She says, Ayam tyakta tvaya veera ayasho bhi runa jane yachate vachaniyam syad apavada samuktitam mayacha parihartavyam tvam hi me paramagati. As much as it is your duty to clear up your name, okay, and stand up for the Ikshvaku dynasty, it is my duty also to uphold your dignity, your kingdom, and your good name, because I am your wife and I am your queen. As the king and queen, both of us have the responsibility to set the right example to the citizens. And she expresses her concern for the citizens. She says, Vyaktavyashcheti nripati dharmena susamahitaha yatha bhratrushu vartheta statha paurushu nityada. As much as you have affection for your bhratrus, for all your brothers, how you take care of them, like that. Statha paureshu, for all the citizens, for the people in the Pura, for all the paureshu, nityada. Take very good care of them. Sita advises Rama, a king has to be subservient to his subjects. So just like how you would be affectionate to your brothers, please be affectionate to the citizens also. So she advises Ram, just because citizens are saying these things, they called you lusty, they have doubts on me, don't give up the citizens. Do your duty. You are the king. You stay there, you do your duty and still remain affectionate to them. Now, this is a very good advice. A wife is called a Sahadharmachari. When Janaka, he gives Sita's hand in Rama's hand, he says, here is Sita. Iyam Sita mama sutta Sahadharmachari tava. She will be a dharmachari with you. She will teach you dharma as and when needed. So that is the role of a wife. Even when the husband falters, the wife stands up and she teaches what real dharma is. And you can see that here also Sita says, don't be angry with the citizens. Be like a father. As much as you are affectionate to your brothers, please be affectionate to the citizens also. So this is the heart of Jagannatha Sita Devi. And she has an important statement that she makes. She says, see, you are important to me and I am important to you. We both cannot live without each other. But then for the citizens, more than you being important to me and me being important to you, what is extremely important is you being there for the citizens. So the citizens must continue to respect you. You stay alone, but then uphold your own respect. Don't keep another wife. That's what she's indicating. Stay there in that palace without me and prove to the citizens that you are a great king. So she gives this message to Rama through Lakshmana. Of course, it is in 2-3 lines, but there is a lot of comments on this 2-3 lines. What Sita intends to say Lakshmana. And then she tells Lakshmana, please Lakshmana, you can go back now with this message and offer my respects to my mothers-in-law and also offer my respects to my husband who knows my chastity very nicely. And however, I want to give an important message to the citizens. This is interesting. She says, Niriksha Madhya Gachatva Ritukalati Vartinam. Go and tell the citizens that Ritukalani Vartinam. Ritukalani Vartinam, that means my Ritukala has been, it's not come for a long time. That means she's pregnant. Okay, that's what she's telling. She's telling Lakshmana, go and tell the citizens at this point in time when I have been sent to the forest, I am pregnant. Why does she have to say this here? Everybody, I mean, Rama knows she's pregnant. Why this important information, especially to the citizens? Because she wanted to indicate that let the citizens understand that when I came to this Tapovan, when I came here to Valmiki's ashram itself, I was already pregnant by Rama. So they should not create a new story saying that this lady went to the forest and she got pregnant after that. So please convey this message to the citizens. Niriksha madhya gachatvam ritukalati vartinam. She says that, and Lakshmana understands what she's trying to say. And immediately after Lakshmana leaves, the great tapasvi women who were all there near Valmiki's ashram. Valmiki's ashram was quite a big place. You can think of it like a small village full of huts or village full of rishis, however you want to imagine that to be. And there were a lot of tapasvi women, a lot of women who were in their old age, who were widowed, who were great tapasvis. They were all staying there. And they were being trained by Valmiki Muni in Krishna consciousness, in their spiritual pursuits. And these tapasvi women, when they saw that Sita was there, they go to that area and they come and they bring her to Valmiki ashram. And there Sita stays in Valmiki ashram under the care of all these tapasvi women. Then, of course, before he left Lakshmana, he circumambulates Sita and he goes on to the boat. And at that time, Sumantara, who was accompanying him, I just want to say one thing before I continue. The story is quite long. I want to finish till Sita disappears. Till there, I want to finish this section. So it might go half an hour more than our usual class. And also, this is the first time I'm picking out the verses from Uttarakhand. So it's taking me a little time to explain. So please don't mind. If you have to leave, you can leave and hear the recording later. There is no compulsion to stay back. Okay. I'm continuing from here. So Sita, he circumambulates, Lakshmana, he circumambulates Sita and he goes into the boat. And at that time, Sumantara, who was accompanying him, he was a charioteer, right? So Sumantara, who was accompanying him, could understand that Lakshmana was very, very brokenhearted. And he starts consoling Lakshmana. So Sumantara tells Lakshmana, don't be so aggrieved, my dear Lakshmana. This was indeed the actual fate of Sita and Ram. This was already foretold by astrologers to your father Dasharath. Once upon a time, sage Durvasa, he had come to spend the Chaturmasya with sage Vasishta. And Vasishta was in the kingdom of Ayodhya. So at that time, your father Dasharath, he went and he asked Durvasa Muni about the well-being of your entire family. Dashrath asked about, how will Ram become the king? What will happen in his life? And so on. So he asked many questions to Durvasa about the future of Rama. So at that time, the sage Durvasa, he said that not long time ago, once upon a time, the Daityas, they had conquered the demigods, and the Daityas went and sought refuge at Bhrigu Muni's ashram once upon a time. At that time, the wife of Bhrigu, she's also called as Kavya Mata, she is the mother of Shukra. She gave the Daityas shelter and she protected them against the demigods. Lord Vishnu was fighting on the side of the demigods, and when Lord Vishnu understood that Bhrigu's wife had given protection to the Daityas, Lord Vishnu commanded his Sudarshan Chakra and he cut off Bhrigu's wife's head. So basically, he punishes a woman. And because he did that, Bhrigu, he was very upset with the Supreme Lord, and he cursed Vishnu that he would take birth in the form of a human being, and he will also have to undergo the same separation that he was undergoing from his spouse. That is, Bhrigu was separated from his wife, and the same feeling of separation that he is undergoing, that Vishnu should also undergo that separation. So this was the curse given to Vishnu. So at that time, Vishnu, who's the Paramatma in everyone's heart, he immediately accepted that curse. He wanted to honor the words of this great Brahmana. And this curse was also inspired by Vishnu for that matter, because Vishnu is the Paramatma in everyone's heart. And immediately after Bhrigu blurted out this curse, he started repenting. He said, oh, what did I do? I cursed the Supreme Lord. He was thinking like that. But then Vishnu, he said, don't worry, this curse was meant to be. I will soon take birth in the land of the humans. Like a human, I will take birth. And I will be separated from my wife for the welfare of the world. Again, note this point. He says, for the welfare of this world, for Loka Kalyana, I will be separated from my wife when I incarnate on earth. So, but however, Bhrigu, he repeatedly asks for forgiveness. And the Lord says, no, it has come out from these words have come out from the mouth of a Brahmana. And definitely, I will accept this curse and I will be separated from my wife. My wife will be abandoned and I will live for 1,000 more years in the absence of my wife, and I will continue to perform sacrifices and live like an ordinary human king. Now, the question is, why did Vishnu say that I will do this for the welfare of the world? What is welfare? What kind of welfare is the Lord going to give through separation from his spouse? Separation from his consort, his wife. How can that happen? Separation of the Lord and his consort is going to be welfare for the world. It sounds absurd, right? But then these sentences or these verses are commented by Acharyas. There is a commentary called as Sri Vachana Bhushanam. And in that Sri Vachana Bhushanam commentary, it is mentioned Loka Kalyanam here through the means of separation of Rama from Sita is to exhibit the quality of Paratantriyam. Now, what is Paratantriyam? I'll explain that. But before that, if you remember yesterday's class, 18 Rahasyas that were learned from Srimad Valmiki Ramayana. One of the Rahasya was Ramayana is the essence of the Vedas and the Vedanta. There are 18 total Rahasyas. One of the 18 Rahasyas is also Paratantriyam. Paratantriyam means complete surrender to the will of the Lord. Okay. So if the Lord desires something, he might put you in any situation. He might put you in a difficult situation, happy situation, terrible situation, whatever it may be. The devotee accepts it as the will of the Lord and still remains dedicated to the service of the Lord. That is called as Paratantriyam. But in the Ramayanam, Paratantriyam is especially exhibited by one devotee who is Bharata. Bharata, see, Lakshman had the I would say the boon to stay with Lord Ram all the time. And again, in yesterday's session, you have heard only 3 days he was separated from Ram. It was before, I think, 1 day of his birth and then the last day or something like that. So Lakshmana stayed with Ram all the time. But Bharata, he never got to stay with Lord Ram. When Bharata was told by Lord Ram, go back to the kingdom, take my padukas and go, Bharata immediately accepted whatever the Lord desired. Okay, so that feature is called as Paratantriyam. You take on whatever you have to take on in this life, difficulty, happiness, distress, whatever it may be, understanding it to be the will of the Lord and continue to serve the Lord. That is the mode of Paratantra. But here in Sri Vachana Bhushanam, it is mentioned that Sita Devi, through this viraha, through this separation, she is exhibiting Paratantriam and teaching the world what really Paratantriam means. We execute the desires of the Lord in spite of our own conveniences, as exhibited by Sita, who is the representative of all the jivas. Throughout the Ramayana, Sita is the representative of all the jivas. Even in the Sundara Kanda section of the Ramayana also, we see that there is an analogy that is presented in the beginning of the Sundara Kanda, that Sita is like the jiva who's in that city of Lanka. There is a nice analogy. So she is the representative. Of course, she is Jagannatha, but she's also representing all the jivas. She's telling how a jiva should be when they have a proper, nice relationship with the Lord. So she is exhibiting this Paratantriam. Sita, and one another thing that the commentator mentions is that even before Lord Ram heard about the gossips, Sita got to know about the gossips through her own sources. And that is the very reason she indicated her desire to go to the forest when she was pregnant. She was thinking, before Ram gets to know of it, let me go to the forest. But then it was the Leela that Ram also got to know of it, and she was abandoned to the forest. Then one may ask, okay, then why did she cry? It is a natural expression of separation, right? When you're abandoned by your husband, what else do you expect? You don't expect that person to be laughing and accept everything and say, yeah, I already knew this. It was my plan. It's not like that. I mean, it's not meant to be that way. So, of course, she goes through her own feeling of separation, feeling of being let down, and then she stands up for herself, and she gives instructions to Ram, she gives instructions to the citizen, and then she moves on. We all think of Sita as being a very fragile, helpless, very weak woman, but Sita is much more than any of the modern women that we talk about today. She was a million times more bold, a million times more independent in the right sense, not in the wrong sense, independent in the right sense. And she was very, very wise, and she knew her duties perfectly. Okay. Nobody needs to be an advocate for Sita. She was a strong advocate for, herself. And she has shown her character throughout the Ramayana. Okay. So Sita wanted to do what was appropriate for Ram as a king. And that's the reason why she holds on to her life. And she keeps Ram in her thoughts, and she decides to live in the Valmiki ashram and give birth to Rama's two sons. So she was exhibiting this mode of Paratantriam. That is the Loka Kalyana that we are talking about, to teach the world what Paratantriya means. Look at the life of Sita. She's the representative of all the living entities, and see how nicely she took it in the right spirit and she moved on. Okay, now let's move on to see what Lakshman did after he went to the palace. So when Lakshman, he went back to the palace, he sees Rama. And he's very shocked and dismayed to see Ram, because how is Ram in the palace? Sadrishtva ragavam dhinamasinam paramasane netrabhyam ashrupurnabhyam dadarsha agrajamagrataha. So when Lakshmana, he goes inside the palace and he sees Ramachandra, Ramachandra's eyes were filled with tears. Netrabhyam ashrupurnabhyam, filled with tears, like completely choked up. And he was not even able to see. He was not even able to see that his brother was entering in. Sadrishtva ragavam dhinamasinam paramasane. So when Lakshmana went inside, he was seeing this condition of Ram, and Ram was he was breaking down so much. It is mentioned that for 4 days continuously, according to the Uttarakanda, Ram could not do anything. He could not take care of the kingdom. He could not do anything. He was just wailing and crying, and Lakshmana was trying to console him. And finally, Lakshmana had to tell him that don't keep doing this, because if you do this, then people will continue to talk about you. They're just going to say, okay, look at his attachment to his wife. He's not able to overcome the separation. And this indeed proves that he's a very lusty person. So please don't give this space for the people. It has been 4 days since you have attended to your duties. And then Rama says, yes, it is a very bad, what do you say? It's a very bad quality of a king not to attend to his duties. 4 days is a lot of time. So he feels that he should get back to work, and he gets back to administration duties. Then one day, some rishis headed by Chavana Muni, they all come to see Rama, and they tell him that there is this Daitya by the name Madhukaitava. These Daityas were killed by the Supreme Lord during the universal devastation, if you remember. That's why Krishna's name is Madhusudhana, right? So these Madhukaitava demons were killed by the Lord. Now, this Madhu demon, he had a son by the name Lavanasura. This Lavanasura was residing in a place called as Madhuvan. So you all know where Madhuvan is. Everybody knows, I believe, where Madhuvan is. So Lavanasura was residing in Madhuvan, and there he was oppressing all the sages who were living there. And his favorite meal was killing the sages and eating them up. Okay, so he would kill the sages who were performing sacrifice, and he would eat up all these sages. So the rishis, they went and they surrendered to Rama, and they said that please dispose this Lavanasura. He's becoming a big problem. He's not letting the sages to perform sacrifices. So immediately, Lord Ram looked at his brothers, and he asked his brothers who would want to go and take care of this Lavanasura and rid Madhuvan of the influence of Lavanasura. So at that time, Bharata, at once he stood up. He said, I will take on the responsibility. But then Shatrughna, he stopped Bharata, and he says, he was always very protective of Bharata. So he was always dedicated to the service of Bharata, Shatrughna. So Shatrughna, he gets up and he tells Rama, my dear brother Bharata has undergone so much austerity and pain in the forest for 14 years. He was living in Nandigram, and he was just living on barley and cow urine, and he has done his part. He has gone through enough in life. Now, I have not done anything in your service or in the service of my brother Bharata. I've not done much, so please give me this service. So Ramchandra was very happy. He said, very good, Shatrughna. I'm very happy that you're coming forward. And he immediately crowns Shatrughna as the king of Madhuvan, and he decides to send Shatrughna. There's a comment here that especially when someone wants to serve the servant of the Lord becomes very happy. So Shatrughna stood up for the service in the mood of being very protective of his brother Bharata. So immediately the Lord was so happy, he personally crowns Shatrughna, and he decides to send Shatrughna. But before he sends Shatrughna, he gives Shatrughna a very special arrow. What was this arrow? This arrow was there during the, this arrow was the same arrow that the Lord used at the time of the universal devastation to kill the Madhukaitava demons. So the same arrow he takes out, and he says, you use this arrow and you kill this Lavanasura. But there is one catch in this entire process. Lavanasura is very, very powerful, and he has a trident that is given by Lord Shiva. So when he doesn't have this trident, that time you should kill him, because as long as he is in possession of that trident, it will be very difficult to kill Lavanasura. And I don't want him to be killed when he has the blessing of Lord Shiva. So when he doesn't have that trident, that is when you stop him at the eastern gate before he can enter his residence, and you challenge him for a fight and use this arrow and kill him. So as per the instructions given by Lord Rama, Shatrughna, he decides to go to Madhuvan. However, Lord Rama tells him, go after 1 month. Why go after 1 month? The reason is Sita is pregnant, and it was time for Sita to give birth to Lava and Kusha. So exactly 1 month after that, Shatrughna, he moves, though he had prepared for his entire army to start moving towards the city. Only after 1 month, Shatrughna, he decides to set out for Madhuvan. And on the 3rd day of his travel, he reaches Valmiki Muni's ashram. And Valmiki is very, very happy to receive Shatrughna. And Valmiki spends a lot of time with Shatrughna, telling him many stories, There are some stories in Srimad Bhagavatam about Saudasa or Kalmashapada. So these stories are narrated to Shatrughna. And in the night, Shatrughna, after listening to all these stories from Valmiki Muni, he stays back in the ashram of Valmiki, and Valmiki insists that Shatrughna should stay back. Okay. So now that night, Sita gives birth to two sons, twin sons at midnight. So the minute Shatrughna, he hears the cry of these two children, he hears the news from Valmiki that these two are indeed the sons of Ramachandra. So Shatrughna is very, very happy. He's considering it, such a great blessing to be there when his two nephews are born. Yastayoho purvajo jata sakushau amritra satkritau nirmarjaniyastu tada kusha ityastya namatat. So Valmiki, he had some elderly people rub the body of the firstborn child with the tips of the kusha grass. So kusha is the tip of that. You all know the dharma grass, right? The kusha grass. The tip, the top part, that region is called as kusha, and the bottom part is called as lava. So since the first child was rubbed with the top part and then mantras were chanted for the protection of the child, that child came to be known as Kusha. Kusha is the older child. Okay, they are twins. But the firstborn was named Kusha. And the other one was rubbed with the bottom part of the Kusha grass. So he came to be known as Lava. So these are the names of the children. And they both were born during the month of August, September, around the same time Krishna was born. Okay, they were also born in midnight. And they were also, they were also born around midnight. Okay. So now Shatrughna, he goes to the ashram. He goes inside the place where Sita had given birth to her children, and he takes darshan of the two children, and he also sees Sita. Ardharatre tru Shatrughna Shushrava Sumahar Priyam Parnashalam Tato Gatva Mata Drishyeti Chabravit. So he goes inside and he sees the mother and the children in the Parnashala. He gets darshan of them and he pays his obeisances to them, and he has a nice exchange, and he decides to leave next morning. As per Chavana Muni's instructions, Shatrughna, he resumes his journey, and on the 9th day, Shatrughna encounters Lavanasura, and he sees when he was without his Trishul, at that time he uses the arrow given by Lord Rama, and he kills Lavanasura, and he establishes the city of Mathura in Madhuvan. That is like a crescent moon surrounded by the river Yamuna. Okay, so now we are at a point when Lava and Kusha are born. Shatrughna pays a visit, and of course Shatrughna moves on and he finishes Lavanasura and he establishes the city of Mathura, and he lives in Mathura. Now, what is happening in the heart of Valmiki? So, at this point, Valmiki Ramayana goes back to the very first verse of the Ramayana. What is the very first verse of Ramayana? Tapaswadhyaya niratam tapasvim vagvidamvaram naradam paripapracha Valmikir munipungavam konasmin sampratam loke gunavankascha viryavan dharmajnascha kritagnyascha satyavakyo dhridavrataha. The very first verse of Valmiki Ramayana is, this is the scene. Okay. Again, Uttarakanda goes back to that first verse at this point after Lava and Kusha are born. So what is the first verse? Tapa swadhyaya niratam tapasvim vagvidamvaram naradam paripapracha Valmikir munipungavam. Valmiki Muni was a great tapasvi, very, very great tapasvi. He was very great in swadhyaya. He was doing his study very nicely. He was great in austerities. He knew how to speak very well. Bhagvidam varam. But this great Valmiki, when he saw Narada, who's his guru, Naradam paripapracha Valmikir munipungavam. This Valmiki Muni, when he saw Narada, he had a question to ask him. Now, why is Valmiki Muni called as tapasvi here? Of course, he is great in austerity. But why at this point, after Lavakusha are born, this verse is coming back again. Actually, this is the beginning. The rest of it that we saw so far is flashback. Okay. So, which means Valmiki begins to write the Ramayana only at this point after Lavakusha are born. This is the scene. Only at this point, this Tapasvi, Valmiki, he had a big question in his mind that was really, engulfing his existence, like how everybody has a question about the character of Lord Rama. The same question was itching the heart of Valmiki, and he was in great tapas. Tapas means what? Great difficulty in this context. It is not that austerity, that yoga tapas. We are not talking about that. At this point in time, Valmiki was under great distress because this question was like it's going to eat up his entire existence. What is that question he had? Why did Rama do this? What is this Rama? What is he doing? That is the question Valmiki was having. He was a tapasvi. He was a vakvidamvaram. And when this question was like tormenting him, at that time, Narada appeared. Naradam pariprapracha Valmiki Munipungavam. At this time, Valmiki had a question. What was the question he had? He didn't ask directly, why did this Rama do this? He didn't ask like that. Rather, he asked indirectly, is there anybody in this world who is existing now? Yesterday also that answer was given. Konasmin sampratam loke gunavan kascha viryavan dharmagnyascha kritagnyascha satyavakyo dridhavrata charitrena kohitaha and so on. 16 qualities. Valmiki mentions 16 qualities of a great personality, and he asked, is there anybody in this world who is existing now, who's an abode of all these 16 qualities? All this while he was thinking in his mind, all this while I was thinking Rama is Narayana. I thought Rama is the Supreme Lord. But it doesn't appear to me now. I'm having doubts. He was thinking in his heart. So he was in a great difficulty. So he asked this question. He was behaving very nicely in the sense that he didn't come to conclusions by himself, or he didn't gather a group of people and start gossiping about Ram's character. He didn't do any of that. He asked these questions to a qualified person to get his apparent doubt cleared. Is it really? Ram really has these qualities like that? And at that time, Narada, he smiled and he understood the question of Valmiki, and he said, don't worry, Ikshvaku Vamsha Prabhavo Ramo Nama Janai Shrutaha. That Ikshvaku, the Rama who was born in the Ikshvaku dynasty, he is the one surely who has all these 16 qualities. Do not misunderstand him, and I will tell you about him. So that is when Narada, he tells the entire Sankshepta Ramayana. Sankshepta Ramayana is in the first chapter of the Valmiki Ramayana. If you read the first chapter, it is a summary of all the pastimes of Ramayana. Okay, so he recites the entire Sankshepta Ramayana, and then Narada clarifies to Valmiki, don't ever have that doubt. It was the circumstance, and indeed, their real nature, you will understand that as you start writing the Ramayana. So after this happened, Valmiki goes and he goes to take bath because he's given the task of writing the entire Ramayana with the blessing of Narada. And Narada tells him, as you write the Ramayana, you will be able to understand the emotions of Sita and Rama and understand their true, genuine nature. And at that time, he sees those two Kramcha birds. One bird is hit by a hunter, and he feels very bad. And out of his shoka, from his shoka comes a shloka, right? So he says, Ma nishada pratishtatvam. He curses that hunter, saying that, oh hunter, what did you do? You will be destroyed for separating the two birds. And that immediately Brahma appears in the scene and he says, this will be the first verse of the Ramayana. Start writing from Ma Nishada, and that way your Ramayana will become complete. You will be able to see the past, present, and future like holding an amalaki fruit in your hand. So this is the very first few chapters of the Ramayana. In reality, that scene is happening now. After Lavakusha was born, Valmiki gets the blessings of Narada, he gets the blessings of Brahma, and now he begins to write the Ramayana. He has heard the Sankshepta Ramayana, but he is also able to visualize everything. Everything comes in front of his eyes. He's seeing like a screen. He's seeing everything that is happening. He saw, oh, Rama went to the forest, 14 years, all this happened. Rama Pattabhishekam happened. And then he was able to also see the mood of Sita and Ram when the separation happened, and he was able to write what is happening now and what is going to happen in the future. So he writes everything at this point in time, and he writes the past, present, future as and when the things were happening. So he's able to see everything. He's also able to see what is to come in the future, how Sita will enter Mother Earth, how Rama will live another 1,000 years and he will rule the kingdom. Everything he's able to see, like holding a little gooseberry in your hand. So Rama, he writes the entire Ramayana at this point in time. And he also gets an understanding of the nature of Rama and Sita. And he sees that the kids are born of Rama now, and eventually time passes. As he's writing the Ramayana, he's also teaching the Ramayana to the people in the ashram, and especially these two children who are growing up. So these two children, Lava and Kusha, they learn the Ramayana, and now Lava and Kusha are 12 years old. Okay. Fast forward to 12 years. And after 12 years, Lord Rama, he decided to go to Ayodhya. And on his way, Shatrughna. Remember, Shatrughna was in Mathura. So Shatrughna, he decides to go to Ayodhya for a few days. And on his way, he comes back to Valmiki's ashram after 12 years. And at this time, when he stays in Valmiki's ashram overnight, he hears two sweet boys chanting the Ramayana, and he becomes very, very enchanted. And even the soldiers become very enchanted. But then the soldiers, they want to go and check out who's this person. They want to go inside and probe and check out. But Shatrughna stops them. He says, don't do that. This is a Rishi's ashram. We cannot just barge in like that. You're able to hear Ram Katha, just hear that and let's move. So after that, from there, Shatrughna, he goes to Ayodhya and he stays for 7 days in Ayodhya. And then he again takes leave of Lord Rama and he goes back to Mathura. At this time, after Shatrughna pays a visit and he goes back, Rama decides to perform the Rajasuya Yajna, and he begins to discuss with his brothers about it. And he decides that this Rajasuya Yajna should happen in the region of Naimisharanya. Most of the sacrifices you see happens in Naimisharanya. It's the same place where the Bhagavatam was spoken. So Ramachandra, he decides to perform Ashwamedha Yajnas in Naimisharanya, and he begins to discuss with his brothers. Now, there is a catch. He is without his wife. Ram is without his wife. You cannot perform a sacrifice without your wife. Okay, Shastra says only a Grihastha performs sacrifice, and a Grihastha should have a wife with him to perform sacrifice. That's why in those days, if the wife died early, they would take on another wife so that they could continue to perform the sacrifice. Without the Patni giving the dharma, a husband cannot begin a light a fire. Okay, so now Ram doesn't have his wife. So what did he do? He also got an instruction from his wife. You better live up to the expectations of the citizens. So what does he do? Na sitayaha parabharya varve sa raghunandanaha yagne cha patnyartham janaki kanchani bhavet. So he made a beautiful vigraha of Sita Devi with pure gold. Apastamba Sutra says that if you don't have your wife because of some reason, okay, maybe your wife is in a Duradesh, maybe she's traveling, maybe she's not well, or maybe she fought with you and went off somewhere, then what should you do if you have to perform sacrifices? You should make a vigraha of your wife in gold or in pusha grass. And with the vigraha of your wife, you can perform the sacrifice. So this leverage is there. So Ramachandra, he makes a golden vigraha of Sita Devi, and in fact, he invokes the deity itself with Sita's energy, and he uses that deity and he begins to perform sacrifices. So Ashwamedha Yajna means a horse has to be sent, right? A horse goes around for 1 year. So he sends a black horse, and Rama performed many Ashwamedha Yajnas like this. Now, at one point in time, while Ramachandra was in Naimisharanya and he was performing many Ashwamedha Yajnas, Valmiki desired that the sons had now come to age. They were 12 years old. And he wanted Lavakusha to go back to their father. So he called out to Lavakusha and he gave them an instruction. He said, I would want you to now continue reciting the Ramayana. I've taught you the Ramayana nicely. So, and you have also learned it very nicely. You're singing it very beautifully. I want you to go and spread the glories of this Ramayana or wherever possible. So go around the world, go around the land, go to the ashrams of rishis, you go to the palaces of great kings and sing the Ramayana wandering through the streets. Go to especially Ayodhya and other places, Naimisharanya, all these different places and go and chant the Ramayana. So he says, first of all, I want you to go to Ayodhya. If Rama invites you to recite the Ramayana in front of the assembled Brahmanas, then you do so. Don't accept payment in return. If they give you many gold coins or gifts, simply say, what is the use of gold for those who live on fruits and roots? Because you are Muni Balakas. You are small boys who are just Munis, okay? So if someone offers you gold and all, tell, no, I cannot take gold. I just live on fruit and roots. Where is the need for gold for me? They will give you money, but don't accept any money. And if at all, Rama invites you to the palace and he says, okay, chant Ramayana here, and he asks you a question, whose sons are you? Then you should just say one answer. We are Valmiki's disciples. That is the only answer you give to anyone who asks you about your parentage. So the boys, they are given this task and they are sent to different places to sing the Ramayana. And finally, they come to Ayodhya and they were led to the court of Rama. So now I was telling he was also performing Ashwamedha Yajnas and Naimisharanya. So you can understand that he would go there, he would come to Ayodhya from time to time. It's not like they're permanently settled there. They go there, they perform the sacrifice, they come back to Ayodhya. It's like that, okay? So when the boys came, they were led to the court of Rama and they were asked to sing the entire Ramayana in front of Rama in the court. So the boys, they sang 20 chapters per day for 25 days. This was their first singing task in front of Ram. So in 25 days, they sang 20 chapters each day, which means Ramayana has 500 chapters. So for us to do a bunch of chapters in one day, it's taking forever. I'm still not even gone to the point of Sita entering Earth. Okay, so you can imagine how quickly these boys had to recite all these chapters. They had to sing 20 chapters per day for 25 days. And hearing them sing, Lord Ram was very, very astonished. You know, how can they sing so beautifully? They're able to capture all the emotions. They know exactly what happened. And Ramchandra was very bewildered as he was listening to them. And he kept asking them questions. He said, oh, my dear boys, how many parts are there in this epic poem? Which Rishi has composed this poem? It is so melodious. Who composed this poem? How many parts are there? How is it divided? So he started asking so many questions. And the twin boys, they told Valmiki, they told Ramachandra that our spiritual master Valmiki, he's the author of this book. And this Ramayana consists of 6 parts: Balakanda, Ayodhya Kanda, Aranya Kanda, Kishkinda Kanda, Sundara Kanda, and Yuddha Kanda. And there is one additional part that describes the concluding pastimes of your life, which is called as Uttarakanda. So they tell Ram, if you desire, we can come to the sacrifice in front of the Rajasuya sacrifice. We'll come there, and in intervals, in regular intervals, we will come and recite the same katha again. So Rama, he continued to listen to the recitation. And after the first day, they sang 20 chapters after the first day. Ram rewarded these boys with 18,000 gold coins. But the boys refused it. They said, no, we cannot take money. We are living on fruits and roots. How can you give us gold coins? We won't take it. And Ram was so astonished looking at the demeanor of these boys. And then at last, Ramchandra was just observing the boys, the way they were singing, taking clues from the Geetam, from the way they were singing. Somehow he could conclude that these two are indeed the twin sons that Sita has given birth to. Tasmin gete tu viknyaya Sita putrau kushilavau. So just taking clues from the Geetam, he could understand this is Sita putrau kushilavau. Tasyaha parishado madhye Ramo vachanam abravit. So as they were, singing like this, immediately Rama could tell himself. He concluded, there is no doubt about this. These are in fact the sons of Sita. And his heart melted because of the affection he had for his sons. And he considered this matter very deeply. He could understand, my sons are now 12 years of age. It's been 12 years since Sita went to the ashram of Valmiki Muni. Somehow I'm missing Sita so much. I want Sita back with me. I've seen my sons now. I really want my Sita back with me. But then he's thinking, again, if Sita has to come back, it can happen only with the approval of the citizens, because I don't want the citizens to start over again. After 12 years, she comes back again. From the beginning, they start accusing her. So I want the citizens to be thoroughly convinced in a way that they will never again talk about this. So I have to find a way where Sita can come and make a vow or make a declaration in front of all the citizens. That way the citizens, if they accept her, I can take her back. So he was thinking like that, and he calls a messenger and he sends that messenger to Valmiki ashram with a message. But then when Sita and Valmiki received this message that Rama wants you back, Sita was not ready to accept the proposal. The reason is because she had enough. She had enough. She was tired. She was like, I don't want to take any more trials from the citizen. But then Valmiki, he was a wise sage. He really wanted the family to be together. So he decided that he would take Sita to Ayodhya. But Sita had decided in her mind, whatever it is, I don't think I'm going to just go there to please the citizens. She had that in the mind. But then Valmiki took Sita along with him to Ayodhya. And a large crowd was gathered, and it was announced that Sita is going to make a declaration in front of everybody. And not only did all the citizens of the Koshala kingdom arrive there, but also various demigods headed by Lord Brahma and the great rishis, even the Vanaras, they had also come from all directions, and the Gandharvas and the Apsaras, everybody, all kinds of living entities, everybody came to that assembly because they wanted to witness Sita, what she's going to tell now. Okay, so let's see this particular section. This is kind of a heavy section, but it's very small. We'll finish it quickly. Tam rishim prishtata Sita Dvanvagaccha Vagmukhi Kritanjali Bhashpaghala Kritva Ramam Manogatham. So how was Sita following Valmiki? She was Kritanjali, and Bhashpaghala. That is, she had kept her face completely bowed down. She didn't even look up. She was just downcast. Her eyes were down. She had folded palms, and her eyes were filled with tears. And she had Rama in her mind. Ramam Manogatam. She had Rama in her mind, and she walked behind Valmiki. When Valmiki entered the assembly, they could see that a faint figure was just following Valmiki. And as Valmiki moved a little bit, they could see this beautiful figure of Sita. She was dressed in yellow garments, actually in saffron garments. Her face was downcast. She had folded palms. Her eyes were full of tears. Her mind was full of Rama. And then when the people saw her, they had a gasp. Everybody, they started commenting. Sadhu Rameti ke chittu, sadhu Siteti chapare, ubhaveva cha tatranye prekshaka samprachukshushu. Some people said, oh, sadhu, sadhu, Rama is such a sadhu. He's such a great soul. Just to uphold dharma, he had to get separated from his wife. Some others, they said, sadhu, sadhu, Sita. She's such a great, chaste woman. For the sake of the citizens, she even decided to be separated from her husband. Ubhavavevacha tatranye prekshaka. The others, they said, oh, both of them are sadhu, sadhu. Both of them are great. They are indeed the ideal couple. So like this, all the people in the kingdom, they were all commenting. And then Valmiki arrived, followed by Sita, and tears were filled in her eyes. And Lord Ramachandra was watching all this. His sight was completely fixed on Sita. He was looking at Sita with so much affection. He was so happy that his Sita had come back to him finally. But then, while the assembled sages looked on, Valmiki first made his declaration before Sita could speak. He looked at Ramachandra and all the people, and he made these declarations about Sita. He said, Imau tu Janaki putra vubhau cha yamatajakau sutau tataiva durdeshau satyameta dvati me. Sorry, my reading is very bad, but please bear with me because I want to give all the verses. That's the reason I'm doing this. Please bear with me. So he says, Imam tu Janaki putra ubhau. Both of these sons are Janaki's putra, and they are your sons. Valmiki, that is the first declaration he said. Sutau tataiva durdeshau satyametat abraviti me. I am telling the truth that these two sons, the Lavakusha who are here, are Janaki's putra. They are the sons of yourself and Lord and Janaki. That is Sita. Prachetasoham dashamaha putro Raghavanandanaha na smaramanyantra vakyamitau tu tava putrakau. So he says, please don't have any hesitation. I am Prachetasa. I am a great sage and I will not speak false. These two are your sons, O Raghava. These are Raghavanandana. So please be assured of it. Bahuvarsha sahasrani tapascharya maya krita. I have done so many years of austerities. Okay. And I will not speak anything that is wrong or anything that is against the reality. And I have been subsisting on fruits and roots. I know what is the truth. I have led a particular kind of lifestyle. And he says, this Maithili, this Vaidehi is spotless. That is my opinion. Manasa karmana vacha bhuta purvam na kilbisham tasyaha phala mupashriyama papa apapa maithili yati. So he says, Manasa karmana vacha. In her mind, in her thoughts, in her words, she has not had any kalmasha, no dirt. Okay, she's always thought only about you. And she's apapa maithili. She has not a single taint in her. So she's very, very pure. I brought you your Sita, Rama. Although you loved Sita very deeply and you were convinced of her innocence, she was separated from you because of the opinions of unscrupulous person. By dint of my spiritual vision, I can understand that Sita is perfectly pure. So I've come here to proclaim the truth in front of you. And Sita is undoubtedly pure. So he says that. And Rama, with a lot of affection, he was gazing towards Sita. And then he announced to the assembly, after he heard Valmiki says this, he announced to the assembly, Drishtva Devan Rishi Chaiva Raghava Punarabravit. He said again and again he said, Pratyayo me Narasreshta Rishi Vakyai Vakyai Akalmashaha. There is no blemish in the words that this Rishi has said. Shuddhayam Jagato Madhye Vaidehya Preeti Rastume. I declare again that this Vaidehi, I know for sure from within my hand is Shuddha. She is very, very pure. And I know that whatever the sage is also telling is also pure. So Valmiki Rishi had declared this in the assembly and I accepted. That's what Rama says. And he said previously the demigods also testified her purity in Lanka and I happily brought her to Ayodhya. Still, you people have been criticizing us. So with great reluctance, I had to send her to the forest. Now, if Sita can prove her innocence before this assembly, and if all of you are convinced, then I can once again accept her as my wife, the person I dearly love. So he says this, and Sita is now asked to speak. She makes 3 statements. Yataham Raghavadhyanyam Manasapi na chintaye Tata me Madhavi Devi Vivaram Dhatum Marhasi. Number 1, she says, Yataham Raghavanyam Manasapi na chintaye. If I've ever thought of anyone other than Raghava, I've never thought of anyone besides Raghava. In that case, please, O Mother Earth, give way. Give way. O Madhavi Devi, Vivaram Dhatum Arhati. Please part way so that I can enter you. Second, she says, Manasa Karmana Vacha Yada Ramam Samarchaye. If I've, other than, I've only thought of Raghava with my mind, my words, and my actions. If that is true, O Madhavi, give way. Yateta Satyatya muktam me vedmi Ramat param nacha. If it is true that I don't know anyone but Rama, in my mind and my heart and in my very existence, I know nobody other than Rama, tata me Madhavi Devi vivaram datum arhati. So she says, O goddess earth, please hear my petition. If since the time of my marriage, I've never thought of anyone but Rama, if I've never loved any man but my husband, then grant me shelter. If I've never even had a thought of anyone besides Rama, please give way. So in thought, in word, in action, I've only dwelt in Rama and nobody else, then give me a place within you, so that I need not experience the shame of facing these slanderous fault-finding people. So her thing is, if at all it is true, see, she was asked to make a proclamation that, she has been very pure, very chaste, so that the people can accept her. But then what did Sita do? She made 3 proclamations and she asked Mother Earth, please give way so that I can enter you. I don't want to be with these people. And as Sita was speaking, the earth suddenly opened, and from out of the crevice of the earth, goddess Bhumi Devi, she majestically arose, seated upon a celestial throne that was borne with divine serpents, so beautifully decorated with divine serpents. And Bhumi Devi was smiling. She gladly welcomed Sita and took her into her arms. And Sita took a seat next to her on the throne. And as everybody looked on, including Lord Ram in astonishment, within a few seconds, this divine throne began to descend into the earth. So Sita, she disappeared from the sight of everybody and she entered earth. Now this was heartbreaking for Lord Ram. Lord Rama, he picked up a staff that he was using at the time of the sacrifice, and he just struck that staff and he gave way to all that choked up emotions, and he started venting out his intolerable grief. He was leaning on that staff and he was crying very, very, very piteously. He was getting angry. He was getting emotional. Yeah, he was feeling terrible. And he was getting so angry that he started declaring, oh, Mother Earth, you better return my Sita immediately. Otherwise, I'm going to destroy everything. I will open up this earth once more and I will be united with her. I will just enter this earth along with her. He says, if Sita is your daughter, I am your son-in-law. So take me also. How can you separate me from Sita? Give me the Sita without delay. Otherwise, I will crush this entire earth. I will break down earth. I will crush all your mountains. I will burn your forests and I will smash you into atoms. So as he was venting out his anger and his frustration and his expressing his separation from Sita, Lord Brahma, who was watching all this, he stopped Rama and he declared in a divine voice from the sky. He said, my dear Lord, please remember your identity. Understand who you are. You are the Supreme Lord. You are Vishnu. And Sita is the goddess of fortune. She has entered earth and very soon she'll be united with you in your abode in Vaikuntha. So, Lord of the universe, you are the sustainer of all the lives. Should I remind you of your divine position? Give up your grief and be with your sons and hear the concluding portion of this Ramayana, the last portion of the Uttarakanda, this epic poem that was composed by Valmiki. This Ramayana will spread the glories, your glories in all the 3 worlds. So please, compose yourself, be with your sons and listen to the remaining part of the Ramayana, the Uttarakanda portion. So Rama is somewhat consoled by everybody around him and he goes back with his sons. And there is a lot more that happens in the Uttarakanda till he withdraws his pastime. Another 1,000 years of pastimes, and finally he withdraws his pastimes. However, on a concluding note, I wanted to say a few things. From the Hari Bhakti Vilas of, this is 12.212 to 214, we find out another reason why Sita was separated from her husband, Lord Ramchandra. It is mentioned that once Lord Ramchandra's wife, Sita Devi, asked Valmiki that I am neither a very independent woman who's just by myself and I do everything by myself, nor am I unchaste. I'm a very nice, I've been a nice patni, I've been a very nice woman with my husband. I have not committed any sinful activity in this life. then what sin did I commit in my previous birth that I'm now separated from my husband and we have to live in exile? So at that time, Valmiki, he heard these words of Sita and he said, you had previously fasted on an Ekadashi that was mixed with Dashami, and then you had worshipped Lord Janardhan. As a result of this indiscretion, you were put into the situation. So this is one quote from Hari Bhakti Vilas. At this point, one may argue that Sita is the eternal consort of Ram. So where is the question of previous life? And what is this Ekadashi mixed with Dwadashi? She did a mistake, so she was punished. How does this apply to her? But then time and again, we see that sometimes some plenary expansions of jivas who have performed very severe austerities, they merge with the actual eternal associates of the Lord to enjoy pastimes of the Lord. So such things are possible. It can happen. Some amsha from the previous life, an expansion of Lakshmi, she could have had this problem where she mixed the Dashami and the Ekadashi Tithi while doing a fast and worshipping the Lord. So it was kind of a punishment that carried on. But then the Padma Purana tells another story where there was a pair of parrots, very famous story, everybody knows this, a pair of golden parrots, the male and the female parrots, and they both were reciting the story of Lord Ram and Sita. And when Sita was a small girl, she happened to capture the two parrots, and the female parrot was pregnant. And she refused to let the female parrot go, but she released the male parrot and let the male parrot go. So the pregnant wife, in deep separation, she cursed Sita that she would also have the same fate when she is pregnant. She would be separated from her husband. That male parrot who was separated from his wife parrot, he drowned in the Sarayu river and he was reborn as the washerman, who's often called out, right? The washerman said that washerman was this male bird who suicided and fell into the river. And he was the cause of the separation of Rama and Sita. So this is another pastime that is mentioned. But more than anything, these pastimes are all fine, but more than anything, Rama was in a very important dilemma in his life and he had to take a decision. And irrespective of whatever decision Ram had taken, some people will be happy, some people will be upset. If Ram decided, okay, I will stay only with my wife, to hell with you, all the citizens would be upset and it would result in more chaos. So actually, he had to take a compromise. He had to make a compromise in the decision that he had to take. A country where the leader cries, the citizens are happy. And a country where the people cry, this leader is very happy. But anyhow, a leader is criticized heavily for whatever he does, whether he does good or bad, anyhow, he's criticized. So at this point in time, it's called as Dharma Sankata. You have to take a decision to uphold dharma, but it is a sankata, meaning it is so difficult. Which dharma are you going to uphold? So he had to do this for the higher good of the greater number of people, for the welfare of the subjects. Another aspect of this that is often quoted by all our Gaudiya Vaishnavacharyas is that the entire Leela is viraha, love and separation. And it is, you all know, viraha is much sweeter and more intense than sambhoga or union. So it's like hot sugar candy. And when you eat hot sugar candy, what happens? It's so sweet, you want to eat it, yet it's so hot, it's burning you. So similarly, Rama and Sita, they relished that Vipralamba or Viraha for the rest of their years. And after all, we must understand Rama is the Supreme Lord and it is only a Leela. And he's having all these different rasas, Sambhoga, Vipralamba, everything with this one consort, only one consort who was Sita. So both of them were relishing this. Their love had intensified at the time of separation, though it was burning them externally. So eventually, we see in the story that Lord Ram returned to Ayodhya, but soon he found his life to be very, very plain and barren without his wife. And he, of course, had the golden deity of Sita made, and he continued to perform so many more sacrifices, so many Ashwamedha Yajnas and Vajapayas and so many other sacrifices, just to keep that thought of Sita in his heart all the time. He had this golden Vigraha next to him, and he did multiple sacrifices. He ruled the kingdom according to religious principles, and he took care of the citizens according to Sita's instruction, take care of my citizens. He took care of the citizens, and rains showered, and the entire city was full of prosperity. So Rama was Maryada Purushottam. He was extremely virtuous. He held up righteousness all his life. He set an example for the world to follow, in spite of the difficulties he had to go through. And the entire couple, I mean, the both of them, not the entire couple, I mean to say the couple, both of them together, they showed the world that in spite of compromising their own happiness, they lived for the sake of the citizens. So this is Purushottama, this is the Supreme Lord, and she is Jagannatha. They sacrificed their personal preferences for the sake of all the citizens, and they set an example for the world to follow. And by the mercy of Lord Rama, we can also pray that we can develop a fraction of their qualities and continue our life in the mode of Paratantriya. So I will end here, and I'm so sorry. I said I will go 20 minutes late, but I went 45 minutes late. But I thought I had to finish this. So thank you for your attention, and forgive me for all the mistakes I've done throughout this presentation. Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari Mataji, very, very painful, very, very heartbreaking, heart-melting session. And you spoke very, very nicely that you just give us crying, lots of crying. The session, especially the end, when Sita Mata tells Artha to give me the way. And I am thinking that how much they suffered, they did sacrifice Lord Ram and Mother Sita for welfare of us, all living beings. So, very, very nice Vipralamba, Veera Leela, but even though it is sweet, but still it makes so much pain when we hear this Ram Katha Mataji. So grateful to you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for your blessings. And thank you. I wish I can also have this kind of listening. Thank you. You were immersed in the story. I can see that. Thank you. Yeah. Kirtana Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Very, very heart-touching and heart-melting class, Mataji. Today, I think so you clarified all the doubts that arose in the heart of so many people or may arise in the heart of so many people in future. But this class is awesome. Concluded everything, keeping the intact position of Lord Ram and Mother Sita. I was also thinking in the same line that it's so heart-touching. Like you presented it so beautifully. Like this class, if devotees have not heard, then the best way is to just sit in one place and hear it with rapt attention. It's so wonderful. Each and every sentence, each and every word was coming from your heart. And I also was thinking that how it's so easy to put allegations on others. Like, what does it take for the citizens not to spare their leader, not to spare even Lord Ram? And it's easy to be judgmental. It's easy to pass on those allegations without even thinking what the consequence may or may be. Later on, yes, repenting, but it's too late when Mother Sita already left. So many lessons to learn from Ramayana, so many lessons. And that's why, as you in the last said, that he is Maryada Purushottam. He came for this reason to set up that mood in all the people so that they can abide by the rules. They can live up to the life of a human being.
Yes.
So true, Mataji. So many great principles can be learned from every section of Ramayana, from every character of Ramayana. Awesome class, Mataji, awesome. It was very, very beautiful class, and you covered so nicely with all the relevant Shastric points quoting from Valmiki Ramayana. And this was really so nice that you mentioned, even I didn't know that how Valmiki wrote Ramayana after Lava and Kush were born. Even I was under the impression that, yeah, he was writing, maybe Ram Katha is going on side by side and he's writing Ram Katha. Leela is going on. But no, it was way after. So thank you for clarifying that too. So many points I got to learn today. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Don't have any question as such because the questions were coming and at the same time you were asking, now the people will think like this. So you yourself were answering all those questions. So thank you. Thank you once again. It was beautiful, Ram Katha. Beautiful, excellent session. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. I think you set the mood for the entire week. I wanted to follow your style, but I was finding it very hard to read the script on it off because the script that is available online for Uttarakanda doesn't even have translation. So you have to figure out the translations yourself, and then it's all in the Devanagari script. So I'm like focusing and trying to read it. It was kind of hard, but I hope it was helpful at the end of the day. Yeah.
The way you were explaining, yeah. For me, it was like I was feeling happy to read in Devanagari. I can read in English sometimes. But yeah, no, but yes, here and there, of course,
Yeah.
we are not perfect in Sanskrit, but you were explaining it very nicely. Each and every verse was making some sense and it was very clear. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you for your blessings and your association. Hare Krishna. Manjari Leena Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Oh Krishna, I have no clue where to start, Mataji. It was you took me in the past time, it's kind of sad, but I want to just tell you that just by your story, hearing the story of Ramayana, so sweetly narrated by you, I was feeling angry at the citizens of Ayodhya. I don't know. I was like, oh Krishna, how can they even think this way when she did so much already, to prove even, Lord Ram already had anticipated this. So he tried like, make sure that doesn't happen, and still is happening. So it just tells you the nature of this people. I think, even in Ram Rajya, people were in this way. What to speak of Kali Yuga? I was just thinking, it's like we're going through nothing, compared to what Lord Ram and Sita were going through. I have no words. I could not hold my, emotions when you're speaking. I don't know how you presented it so beautifully without having any kind of break or emotions. It was just, you were amazing, Mataji. I don't know how you did this. I have no words. And what Kirtida Sundari Mataji also said, that you answered the questions as it was going on. So it was just so beautiful, and I learned so much additionally. And when I didn't know many of the things, even like one of the things that what Kirtida Sundari Mataji said, that Valmiki wrote this after Love Kush were born. So that was just a very eye-opening, because I didn't know when it started either, or how Valmiki Muni got inspired to write this. So and then he also had that question, like, is this, is Lord Ram really the supreme personality of Godhead, after seeing all this that's happening in front of him? And then Narad Muni had explained everything. So it was so beautiful, Mataji. Thank you so much for your association, and thank you so much for such a wonderful story. The way you presented it was very heart touching. I don't have any just normal words to thank you, but thank you.
Thank you, Manjari Leela Mataji. You're so sincere and you're so inspiring. Thank you. Thank you for your continuous listening. I've been saying from day one, you're like full ears and you're listening to every speaker. It's so inspiring to see that.
It's you. It's the speakers, Mataji. It's not me. It's how well that the speakers are speaking, and they're realized souls. You all are realized souls, which is why there's connection for the audience. Otherwise, it's not possible. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else has anything to say or comment? Like Ram said, after all, speakers are the object of criticism of the audience. So any criticisms? Pin drop silence. Okay, we'll end the class here then. I'll finally go to my meeting, which I've been missing. I skipped 2, so I'll go for the final one now.
We're all captivated by this.
Sure. I don't know. Oh, maybe, yeah, other participants. Okay, Mataji. So let's end the call here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you,
So
Mataji.
grateful to you, Mataji.
Thank
It was
you.
very, very heart-touching class.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So
Mataji
much
ki.
effective and so much lesson.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Preeti Vilasini Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Ending the
Krishna
call
Mataji.
here.
Thank you.